Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 43. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined on the line by Cody Safdie, coming off of UFC Vegas 42. I mean, it was a bad card. I saw a galaxy brain knowing that, I mean, I've been buying a house, I've been busy, yada, 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 excuses. But, I was really, really busy, and so I didn't have nearly as much invested to start the night, and then I galaxy brained myself into getting onto the fight doesn't go to decision, and jammed quite a bit at that. So, yeah, I licked quite a few wounds. It was a bad night at the office, but you know, there's cards pretty much every single week. There's like 3 or 4 cards before the end of the year now, Code, and let's crush them down the way.
Yeah, well, we all knew that last week could be very greasy. It looked like a real greasy offering. And like I said, certainly with my betting style, we hit 100 to 1 the week before. You're not going to get them all right. You hope to make enough when you do hit to secure yourself on these bad ones. But yeah, this one was a bad one. We had Mark Diakese lose, second fight of the night, crushed all the tickets, tried to rebuild. Chuck Moises lost, used a little bit of restraint, didn't rebuild. And thank God, because I would have put Ben Rothwell. There was no more options. And he absolutely got killed. I obviously didn't take props. And I like overs. I like over 1.5. So I like fight goes the distance. And it was just a violent card top to bottom. So listen, it was fun from an entertaining standpoint, but in show purposes, what we're trying to do here, not the best offering. So we got to get back on the pony. It's what we do. And motivated to do so. This looks like a fun little offering. Hopefully we're on the right sides. And we got about 2 or 3 underdogs that I like. So hopefully those are the right 2 or 3 underdogs. And it's not an absolute dog city like it was last week.
All right, well, in the main event, we've got Ketlen Vieira taking on Miesha Cupcake Tate. -115 Vieira, -105 Tate. Take it away, Cody.
What am I missing here, Paul? Like, what? I don't 100% understand why it's Miesha Tate's slight underdog status versus Ketlen Vieira. We'll start with Tate. She's obviously a former champion. She's a little bit older, 35 years old, and has the long layoff. But did she not do at least a little bit something to erase the long layoff and the 35 years of age from our mind in that last fight with Marion Renault? Mind you, it's Marion Renault who's already going to retire. I believe she announced her retirement before the fight, and as we all know, that never goes well. And she's in her 40s. So was it a proper opponent for Miesha Tate to come back to? Yes, but physically she looked in great shape. Obviously she hasn't left the gym. And I mean, she's grinding away there at Extreme Couture. Still got good performances left in her, I believe. When you look at how she operates at her best, well, she's fought the best women in the division, good wrestler. Striking has improved. That's going to be key here against Ketlen Vieira, who I just believe can't strike at all. But I think it's the war of attrition. This is a 5-round fight. Miesha Tate is in incredible shape. At the very least, she's a professional. And with Ketlen Vieira, there's just red flags left, right, and center. UFC debut against Kelly Fashholtz, okay? Kelly Fashholtz, who pretty much nobody will remember. Outstruck her 44-13. Outstruck her in every single round, by the way. The first round was 8-4. Second round was 11-2. And the third round was 25-7. She had gassed out in that third round. All 3 judges gave the fight, the third round, to Kelly Fashholtz. In fact, one of them gave the entire fight to Kelly Fashholtz, of all people. And it was a split decision win. Her fight with Ashley Evans-Smith, she narrowly outstruck her 71-68. She did, in fact, lose the third round in that fight as well. Her fight with Kat Zingano, where she got a split decision, should have been unanimous, sure, but she got outstruck in the first round, and she got beat up bad by Kat Zingano in the third round when she gassed out. Her fight with Sinjara Eubanks, she gassed out down the stretch. Her fight with Yana Kunitskaya, she gassed out down the stretch. And, of course, lost that fight. People were screaming robbery. She got outstruck 44-7. Now, mind you, she's on top position almost the entire fight, Paul. So I think that's why people were screaming robbery. But she didn't do shit. Why? Because she doesn't have the cardio to do shit. She can get the fight to the ground. She has no ground and pound. The submission attempts I don't think are super legit. And in almost all of her fights, the longer the thing goes, the more she slows down. So Miesha Tate is a good enough wrestler, I think, to stuff the majority of Ketlen Vieira's takedown attempts. Even if she does get taken down, work, got to keep working. BJJ black belt should be able to stuff the submission attempts, but it's just all about keep her working. If this fight stays standing, I figure Miesha does have the advantage. If Miesha can tire her out and take her down, Miesha's definitely got the advantage. But even if this thing just stays the course for 2 or 3 rounds, Miesha's got to make sure it's a 29-28 after 3, pull down the stretch, wins 4 and 5. Take this fight. Dogger pass at very best. We got women's main event action. Could go either way, sure. But Miesha Tate dog money, yeah, that's the side we're going to play here.
I basically took all the words out of my mouth there. I've been kind of looking at this. I haven't bet it yet, but I've been thinking about it the entire time. And it really comes down to, yeah, that Yana fight specifically. I know that she came in like 2 pounds over, missed weight. Maybe she had a really bad cut, but she was gassing really, really hard at the end of round 3. Now we have five rounds for her. If she's not able to put Miesha Tate away early, Miesha's really going to take over late. So I'm going to have some money on Miesha Tate straight up, but I feel like potentially this could be an even better live bet.
Yeah.
If we get into round 3 and Ketlen Vieira starts slowing down and the rounds have been relatively competitive, it hasn't been, any knockdowns or anything crazy, you may be able to get Tate again at plus money. She was plus money. She's minus 105 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Obviously, there's a couple pluses out there, but it feels like people are figuring it out now that, hey, Vieira struggled to fight 3 rounds in her last fight. Now she's got to go with somebody with a championship pedigree, probably in the best shape of her life, with, all of the coaches and all of the equipment and everything that she needs to focus on, the second half of her career for Miesha Tate here. So I'm 100% with you. Miesha Tate or pass for me as well. All right, we got, this is an interesting one. Sean Brady taking on Michael Chiesa, minus 160 Brady, plus 140 for Chiesa. Obviously, people go, oh, well, it's a welterweight versus a former lightweight, but it's like Michael Chiesa was one of the largest 155 pounders. Like it's insane to think this guy made 155 because he doesn't look out of place really against anybody physically at 170 pounds. Like his frame is big. He's got lots of money. 6'1", 75.5 inch reach, and he's physically, pretty jacked up. So the fact that he was able to cut all that weight and get down there was quite a feat. Minus 160, plus 140. They're giving Brady, maybe it's the 14-0 record. They're giving him a lot of respect here. Brady likes going to that wrestling, and what if the wrestling isn't there? Does he have better hands than Chiesa? If it gets into it becomes a greasy fight. Is he going to be able to dig deep in that type of situation? I'm not so sure. I'm just nervous about laying a minus on Brady. This is a massive step up from the Jake Matthews, Christian Aguilera, Ismail Nordiev, Court McGee. It's like he's jumped up multiple tiers here. He's fighting top 10 opponents at this point. So I'm picking Brady, but not with too much confidence. And minus 160, not loving it. What about you?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is actually you're paying for recency bias because if you look at Michael Chiesa, he was everybody's darling quite literally one fight ago. I mean, keep that consideration. Beats Carlos Condit, fan favorite. Beats Diego Sanchez, fan favorite. Beats Rafael dos Anjos, fan favorite and former champion. Beats Neil Magny. You and I took a bath on that one because we had Neil Magny. And Magny never looked in place one bit. And then Chiesa is actually slight favorite over Vicente Luque, who's just an utter stud, who everybody loves. And everybody knows how talented he is. Michael Chiesa is slight favorite over him. Loses that one fight, not like he got totally blown away. The result is a first-round submission loss that it would appear to be blown away, but he was on Luque. He was giving him a go. Unfortunately, tables got reversed. He got choked out. And now he's like not a sizable underdog, but he's like a plus 140 underdog against Sean Brady his very next time out. I think a lot of that is just that one fight. Now you talk about size, and you're absolutely right. I don't know if it was a Modelo commercial. I don't know. Justin Gaethje and Michael Chiesa are in some commercial together. I just saw it on TV the other night. And Gaethje knocks on Chiesa's door and walks in. They go toe-to-toe. And it's like, Chiesa is considerably bigger than Justin Gaethje. These guys both used to fight at 155 pounds. So you're right. At 170, that's the weight class he should be in. But one of his natural advantages when he was making 55 is that he's so goddamn big. And he's rugged. Not a great wrestler, but when he's that much bigger than guys, he will get them to the ground. His grappling's pretty on point, but he has no ground and pound. Very low striking numbers. Even the Neil Magny fight, he ragdolled him for 25 minutes. He landed 24 significant strikes over the course of 5 rounds. Not enough ground and pound out of him. As far as the striking goes, striking kind of always been robotic and herky-jerky. He can make it work in spots, the Mitch Clark fight. Say the Joe Lozon fight. But even in those two spots, I mean, he can't strike for a prolonged period of time. He eventually gets figured out. His timing eventually gets figured out. He kind of throws the same repetitive strikes over and over again. And someone like Sean Brady, I would think, would eventually figure him out. Brady, meanwhile, yeah, we've been high on this kid since he came to the UFC. Mind you, you're right. You're absolutely right. Court McGee, well, we all bet him there because it was a layup. And by the way, Court actually looked good in the third round. Ishmael Nordiev, it was a layup. We all had him. Christian Aguilera, come on. What was he there? 6-1 favorite? Minus 420 favorite. Come on. And he looked like a 6-1 favorite. Jake Matthews fight. Well, we all had him there. This is finally that big step up. But why do we like this guy? Because he's extremely well-rounded. He has good striking. You saw that in the McGee fight. But beyond that, BJJ black belt at a Henzo Gracie, Pennsylvania. And I mean, it got solid grappling. Put it on display his last time out against Jake Matthews. I guess the Christian Aguilera fight as well. But he just floats when he's on top position. He's extremely good. Good hips, very versatile. And that's what makes him dangerous against a guy like Michael Chiesa. His natural path to victory against Chiesa is sprawl and brawl. Yeah, use, decent enough wrestler, keep the fight standing, keep this guy off of you, and you can probably outstrike him. You got a better jab, better right hand, quicker hands, better combinations, more output, mind your P's and Q's, secure 2 of these 3 rounds. However, when you look at Michael Chiesa's last 3 losses, let's say, Kevin Lee chokes him out with a rear naked choke. Didn't really see that one coming. Lee, his grappling hasn't really looked all that great since that fight. Anthony Pettis catches him in a triangle armbar. Shit is embarrassing, but we'll blame it on the cut down to 155 pounds. And then his last time out against Vicente Luque, people thought Vicente Luque would do the same thing I'm suggesting Sean Brady does right here, sprawl and brawl him, right? But Chiesa actually took Luque down. It's once Luque got back up, Chiesa's reckless. He leaves his neck open a bunch of times. That's why he's been caught. And I don't doubt Sean Brady can catch that neck as well. He's got a nasty guillotine choke. And the problem with Chiesa is 55 or 170. He has to have it his way. Neil Magny presented 0 resistance, so he was able to do it for 25 minutes. Luque gave him a thrilling 3.5 minutes, and he started to fatigue. Brady seems to me like the kind of guy that's going to be able to push the action a little bit, win the striking exchanges. And if you shoot a sloppy takedown or you get tired, he's going to snatch up the neck. So I don't love that minus 160 price tag. But got to have a co-main event selection here. I'm going to take Sean Brady.
We got Kyung Ho Kang taking on Hani Yahya. Minus 115 Kang. Minus 105 Yahya. Fight that was supposed to take place back in July and fell through because I believe
Yahya
got COVID. But then Yahya followed it up by performing before. Or wait, no. The Ray Rodriguez fight was back in March. So yeah, fight was supposed to take place in July, and Yahya got COVID. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you were taking Kang in this spot, or were you taking Yahya? You were taking Kang.
I was taking Kang. Yeah.
Has anything changed? Probably not, considering Yahya was the one who got COVID, and this guy already kind of had a gas tank issue. So.
Yeah. Anytime that you're betting Kang, first of all, you got to realize that the judges seemingly just don't like his style. I mean, just in the UFC alone, he's got the split no contest with Bruce Leroy. He has a split decision win over Michinori Tanaka, split decision loss to Ricardo Ramos, and then both of his last 2 fights, Brendan Davis and Pingyu Liu, are split decisions. But were they? That's the real thing, in my opinion, is that he beat Brandon Davis pretty clean. He beat Pingyu Liu pretty clean. If you were to go on something like MMA decisions, they would tell you that 16 media members scored the fight for Kang and 0 scored it for a guy like Brandon Davis. But again, it goes by the result of that night. And that's his kind of his thing, is he's not really much of a finishing threat. If anything, he's got a bit of a submission game, but he ain't submitting Rani. Oh, yeah. So Kang's path to victory is sprawl and brawl. This guy probably goes the distance. Yahya, meanwhile, I'll give him one thing. He actually has looked a little bit sharper considering he's 36 years old and never had a well-rounded game. Everyone always talks about ADCC competitor. 2003, Paul. 2003. He was a bronze medalist at the ADCC. Sorry, he might have won it. This is a long time ago. In MMA, he's been the same shit. He's a guard puller, and he kicks a little bit. He sits down. He's got terrible cardio. He's just a submission threat. That's kind of been his thing. But I'll give him his kudos. The Ray Rodriguez fight, limited opposition, but he didn't look tired. He didn't look like he was going anywhere. He was cruising on him that night. The fight before that with Enrique Barzola, shit, man. Barzola's a young stud, strong guy, great cardio. Yahya stuck with them, forced the draw. Before that, he went the distance with Ricky Simone. Not an easy task, Simone's not really much of a finisher, but you can see some improvement in his game. He's going to be dangerous as ever. This is a greasy fight, no matter what side you fall on. To me, what it comes down to is I'm not sold on Rani Yahya striking, even though he's made improvements. It's mostly just rinky-dink kicks. I'm not sold on his wrestling. I never have been. And I'm not sold on his cardio. And even though there's spots, I just can't buy into it. I really can't. The thing with Kyung is that he's physically very strong, good judo, good grappling, shit gas tank in his own right, but physically a pretty athletic guy and a strong guy. And I think as long as he, again, you got to mind your P's and Q's, similar to how Ricky Simone fought him. Remember, Simone would box him up, and then Yahya would drop down a guard, and then Simone would right away put one knee down. Can't up kick. He would slowly pass into the guard, sit there for a little bit, land a couple strikes, and then back right out. Let Yahya come up. You can take him back down, do the exact same thing. That rinse and repeat style of just racking up points is the way to beat him. I think Kyung should be able to do that. But this is not going to be really high on the confidence level because Yahya's burned a ticket or two in his day. He is extremely crafty and very difficult to prepare for, but he's so limited, man. I just don't want to bet him. Can't bet him. Kyung, meanwhile, shows a lot of these close split decisions, but there's some skill there. There's some definite skill there. And hopefully if he just comes in with a little higher ring IQ than he normally does, he's got the skill set to win. So I got to go with Mr. Perfect, who, of course, 8 losses. Not exactly perfect, but if he fights a near perfect game plan here, he's going to get the win.
5-inch reach advantage. Keep this fight upright. You get to round 3. Yahya will be flopping to his back, hoping that you go into his guard. That's how you win this fight against him. Don't get taken down early when you're dry. That's how you lose the fight against Rani Yahya. All right, I think we said all we have to say about this one. We got Taila Santos taking on Joanne Wood. Not Joanne Calderwood. She is recently married and hilariously just had to drop the Calder from the beginning of her name, which is great. Minus 380 for Taila Santos. Plus 290 for Wood. Who you got?
Wow, the line's way out of proportion, I think. Like, even if you want Taila Santos, which I feel inclined to lean towards, minus 380, like, that just seems a little bit crazy. I think you got to go by experience when you're, for a lot of these spots. And in Wood's case, whatever you want to call her. By the way, real quick story. I played hockey with this kid named Andre Wilkinson. And his whole thing was, like, he was real upset with his parents that they'd call him Andre. He's like, this is the most uncool name. So they went over and they just had to add a W, and he changed his name to Andrew Wilkinson. And it wasn't much money because they added like one letter. So I don't know, in Calderwood's case, like, might have been cheaper. You don't have to add any letters. We'll just drop the first half of it. Bickety bam, away you go. If she's the Calderwood of old, again, this is someone that's fought all the divisions best. Taila Santos, meanwhile, she's fought approximately. She lost to Mara Borella, right? That's one that she's looked awesome since then. Yeah. But you still got to mention level of competition, right? A win over Molly McCann doesn't mean shit. A win over Jillian Robertson doesn't mean shit. And a win over Roxanne Modafferi certainly does not mean shit. So good that she's winning fights and she's moving in the right direction. You see that she's very skilled. You see that she's improving. UFC's done a pretty good job to move her up. But Calderwood was supposed to fight for a title, if not for deciding not to sit on the sidelines and take the Lauren Murphy fight. Loses the Lauren Murphy fight. Murphy gets the title shot instead of her, but she's knocking at the door. She's right there. The fights with the division: Jessica Ai, title challenger; Jennifer Maia, title challenger; Andrea Lee looks really good these days; Kaylin Chikagian, title challenger; Jessica Andrade, champion. Like, so to say that she's a minus 380 favorite over Calderwood, we're really relying on the wrestling here, because if it stays standing, I would say Calderwood's got the better striking and she's going to have the better volume. She's fought 3 hard rounds. She can go into deeper waters. The real thing here is that Taila Santos gives her an old-fashioned grinding up against the cage, peels her to the ground, renders her Muay Thai background useless, and just kind of gives her that grinding style from top position. Taila Santos should be able to get the win here, but I just don't agree with the price tag. I mean, if I was betting straight up fights, I might be inclined to maybe put what do they call it? A little bit of cheddar, a little bit of lunch money on Calderwood. But because I'm betting parlays, I'm going to have to use the other side, Taila Santos. Again, though, I'm trying to sniff out the apple pie shitters the best that we can in advance, ahead of time. And at minus 380, it seems like Taila Santos should be up near the top, but I'm just not fully buying into it.
Question for you.
Shoot.
If you don't like Santos, I don't want to get in the way of the master magician and his parlay building. But if you don't like Santos and you think that there's no value on that leg and you think the value is on Calderwood, why don't you just put Calderwood near the bottom?
Because then what ends up happening is Taila Santos goes out there and wins a real competitive 29-28 and just edges it out. And I get flooded with messages of like, man, you were just forcing the dog shot. You didn't really like Calder. You said you thought Taila Santos would win. And that's what it comes down to for parlays. Parlays are the PRP. You're betting the entire card, right? These are your picks. And at the end of the day, if someone came up to me with just a bout sheet, there's no odds, right? It's just a bout sheet, 12 fights, and said, who do you think is going to win? Well, I would circle Taila Santos. When you say, she's a 4-1 favorite, and someone says, ooh, I don't like her at that price, I hated that mentality. I think fighter A is going to win. Fighter A is a 3-1 favorite. Whoa, it shouldn't be that high. I think fighter B is going to win now. What? You just broke it down and you thought fighter A was going to win. You thought that the ground game and the strength advantage and grind up wood against the cage. Like, where did that all go? Like, you flipped who you believe is going to win simply because of a number? That can't scare you off. I can agree. I think this is going to be a lot closer. You guys are, what's minus 380? Is that like a perceived 80%? Was that 75%? You're good on this.
Yeah, usually I'm sneaking. So it's like 75%, but Ace odds.
Right, I would just say
Ace odds probability calculator. So
it's women's MMA. One of them has a loss to Morella Barella. The other one 80%. Is a
79.
Yeah, like so if someone came up to me on the beach and said, who wins this fight 10 times? Oh wow, geez, I'd say Taila Santos is winning at least 6 or 7. Oh well, then that means that the line's off. Oh well, I guess that means the line's off. Well, then are you taking wood? No, I'm not taking wood, but I'm trying to get the potential PRP shitter at the bottom because as you saw from last week, there was multiple shitters and, Rothwell was a minus 170. So whatever, we knew what we were getting into. Thiago Moises is a minus 240. He's shit in the apple pie. DKZ is a minus 225. He's shit in the apple pie. There's onus there. Taila Santos, she's the kind of favorite we're going to have faith in. And I think she could potentially shit in the apple pie. So is she on the first leg? No. Is she on the first 2 legs? No. I don't even think I would have her on the 3rd line, but if she's on the 4th line and she loses and we lose everything below that, wow, we're still more invested in those top 3. So maybe she doesn't crack it from that standpoint. I want to see weigh-ins, right? I want to see, this is Wednesday. I'm very much, what did the interviews say? What does the weigh-ins look like? What is as much information as it could possibly gather? And at some point, maybe you pull the trigger on that flip. But as of right now, yeah. I just gotta buckle in and say, Taila Santos hopefully gets this fight to the ground early and often.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's all fair. Stay tuned. Obviously, at CJ Saftic. People know where the parlays drop at this point to see if he changes his mind if anything happens over the course of the week. All right, we got Adrian Yanez taking on Davey Grant, minus 320. Yanez, plus 250. Davey Grant. I feel like this. I really like Yanez. I think his hands are super slick. We've compared him to George Masvidal in terms of, just great boxing, great technique. He looks like a real talented upcoming prospect in this division. But you can't really throw out the fact that like round 1 against Randy Costa. Now maybe it was just a bad round. And he definitely righted the ship in round 2, but round 1 was bad. It was a bad first round for Yanez. He wasn't firing. He seemed a little bit gun shy. He was overwhelmed by the amount of volume that Randy Costa was throwing at him. Davey Grant, he went to war with Marlon Vera, and Marlon Vera is obviously a legit top 10 guy in this division at this point. And the volume is always kind of there for him. He's never been knocked out. He has been submitted. He has been wobbled. But he's never been knocked out. So super, super tough. I think Yanez at minus 320 is another one of these favorites that is a little bit too much juice here. I'll be waiting for weigh-ins and stuff, but I'm interested, I think, on the dog side here. What about you?
Yeah, honestly, you bring up a ton of really good points. I think that Yanez could be the guy that shits in my apple pie because I'm going to use him higher up than I probably should. And then come fight time, I'm going to say, why did I not listen to Paul Shaughnessy? But I love Adrian Yanez. I love what he brings to the table. I love that he's going to persevere if we need him to. And to be quite honest, I like the way he matches up against Davey Grant. The real X factor would be his takedown defense, because let's face it, so far he fought Brady Huang on the Contender Series, right? And then his 3 fights in the UFC, Victor Rodriguez, Gustavo Lopez, and Randy Costa. None of them are really wrestlers. And that's one thing that Davey Grant brings to the table, is that he's not really a wrestler, but he's grindy. He's got decent takedowns. He's got good top game, decent gas tank on him. Again, if you want to talk about experience, he's coming off a competitive fight against Chito Vera in the rematch and has a win over him prior. Like, he's an experienced guy. If he doesn't get them to the ground, Yanez is eventually going to take over, I do believe. You're also 100% right that if you don't love this pre-fight flop, bet it after 1 round. Bet it midway through the first round if you want. Yanez, I'm not going to say he's a slow starter, but he certainly is taking his time, and he's not above getting bum rushed out the gate. Davey Grant likes to come on hot right out the gate. So what you saw versus Yanez versus Costa was the same scenario, and we spoke about it. Costa is a very, very fast starter. He comes right off the hop. Randy Costa will throw 10 head kicks in the first round, but he's notoriously got a shallow gas tank. He tends to run out of gas. Maybe that's he's got bad cardio. Maybe that's he threw 10 head kicks in the first round. I don't know. But yeah, his style just doesn't lend to fight deeper the longer the fight goes. So it was there for Yanez to take advantage once he started to slow down, and that's exactly what he did. Took advantage as soon as Randy Costa started to slow down. Even actually the last minute of the first round, I thought Yanez was already recuperated, ready to go into the second round. I mean, he just fully takes on over. Davey Grant could do the same thing. We saw that against Marlon Vera. He came in the first round, took Vera down. He landed some decent strikes, and Davey Grant and all 3 judges' scorecards won the first round in the rematch against Marlon Vera. In the second and the third, he wasn't even trying to wrestle anymore. He was just standing at distance and getting chopped up. And that's kind of his problem, is that he's got lackluster striking defense. Look at his last 3 fights, okay? Martin Day dropped him, and it's a competitive fight. He ends up knocking out Martin Day in the third round, but it's probably 1-1 going into the third, and he got seriously wobbled by Martin Day, who went 0-4 and was released from the UFC. The Jonathan Martinez fight, he loses the first round, and he gets wobbled in the first round. The Marlon Vera fight, prior to that, he got wobbled by Manny Bermudez. Like, what? Manny's a very big for the weight class, but very one-dimensional grappler. And so you're right, he hasn't been knocked out, but he's been knocked down in 3 of his last 5 fights against guys that don't hit like Adrian Yanez. No. Yanez is very crisp. He's very precise. And, excellent comparison to George Masvidal, because I see a lot of similarities, high guard, sharp boxing, good technical boxing, but also just he's not throwing 100% into all of his punches. And if you want to use a recent example, look at Sean Woodson against Colin Anglin from this past weekend. Like, he wasn't really loading up on any of those punches. He just touch, go, man. And it beats you up. That's what Yanez brings to the table. So barring a bad maybe first round, maybe bad 3 or 4 minutes where Davey Grant's going to make us sweat, I feel like Yanez does pull through down the stretch, wins the second round, wins the third round, has superior striking. He can knock out Davey Grant, I do believe, or he could do what Vera did, and that's just bust him up and ultimately win the fight. 2 of the 3 rounds. So that's the way I'm leaning. Last thing here is that the real way that I'm going to be sweating this one is the Davey Grant, takedown. That's what I'd be worried. But he does show a career takedown accuracy of 46%. He's not really a wrestler at the end of the day. He's 35 years old. He's big and he's strong, but the UFC's thrown him in there against some pretty tough competition, and I don't think he's getting over that hump. So got to go with Yanez. Do I love the price? No, I don't. But I agree, Adrian Yanez is the favorite, and I'm going to have to play him.
All right, moving on down the card, we've got Pat Sabatini taking on Tucker Lutz. Minus 135, Sabatini. Plus 115, Lutz. Where's your money going here?
I'm going to take the dog shot here and go with Tucker Lutz. And I like Pat Sabatini, don't get me wrong, but Pat Sabatini has got excellent grappling. Like, shit, you don't really want to go to the ground with that guy. At least Jamal Emmers just played a critical error for sure. But let's just play a little bit of devil's advocate here. So 2 fights in the UFC is debut against Tristan Connolly. We bet him there. He's a minus 230 favorite. He should cruise on Tristan Connolly. And he gassed out in the third round. Hands down lost the third round against Tristan Connolly. And I don't know, you can make excuses. It's a little bit of a short notice appearance and this and that, but it didn't look like there was any real big X factor to his game. His wrestling's just okay. His striking's just okay. His jiu-jitsu's sick. But his gas tank looked just okay, kind of looked like an average guy. Then the Jamal Emmers fight. I bet him as an underdog in that one. He's a plus 125. Not a huge underdog price tag, but Dude, much of the same. Like, he wouldn't have taken Jamal Emmers down. Emmers blew that 100% on his own right. He was kicking the crap out of Pat Sabatini standing. And then Sabatini falls down, and Emmers gets on top, and boom, heel hook. He's going to snap his leg if Emmers don't tap, so it is what it is. Now he's getting the spot against Tucker Lutz. Well, Tucker Lutz is he would look very average. He had 2 fights in the Contender Series. Dana didn't sign him the first time because he was like, well, you didn't get a finish over Chase Gibson. But he put a beating on Chase Gibson. What you see is this guy does come from like a bit of a wrestling background. He's got decent takedown defense. He's got decent technical boxing, decent cardio, not great in any one aspect, but very well-rounded. His second time on the Contender Series, he beat Sherard Bleckage. Dude, it was much of the same. It wasn't super impressive, but you can see that the guy's very well-rounded. So they sign him, they bring him to the UFC. He took on Kevin Aguilar, and everything was tight. Aguilar's kind of a dangerous enough opponent. He likes to bang. He's got an opportunistic submission game, but Tucker Lutz fought a real good game plan, real sound, technical, high ring IQ, and that's the exact way that you go out there and you beat Pat Sabatini. He was initially supposed to fight Lando Venata last week. Venata pulls out, so he's at a full camp ready to go. They just delayed it by 1 week. Meanwhile, I don't know why it's. Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, Pat Sabatini is supposed to take on Gavin Tucker on this show. So both of them are short notice. Neither of them on short notice. They both had camps. They're both trained. They're just not ready to take on this exact opponent. But how I see this fight plays out is Pat Sabatini's best path to victory is get this fight to the ground. I don't think he's going to be able to take Tucker Lutz down, at least not in the first 2. Lutz is going to sprawl and brawl him. He's got better boxing. He's got better output. He's got better hands all around. Sabatini's a little bit hittable, leaves himself a little bit exposed, and Lutz doesn't have the finishing power to take advantage and knock him out. But the judges will recognize that he's landing the better strikes for at least 2 of these 3 rounds. And I think that Lutz is going to end up sneaking out a relatively close and competitive decision, unanimous decision. But at plus 115, this is a close competitive fight. Good dogs are going to be coming through on this one. I'm going to go with Tucker Lutz to be one of those dogs.
All right. I'm not going to argue with you there. We've got Rafa Garcia taking on Natan Levy. Minus 120 Garcia, plus 105 Levy. What's your take here?
Well, yeah, we're gonna go with half a Garcia, but he better show up a little more than a half a Garcia this time around and get the job done, because my God, what a letdown he was last time. It was a bad card. It was a bad card he was on, but he had to end up being close to the top ticket material on parlays because, well, first of all, he was a minus 330 favorite over Chris Grutzemacher, and he had just gone 3 rounds with Nasrat Haqparast. Didn't even look terrible against Haqparast. And that was on short notice, Paul. Now he's coming in against Chris Grutzemacher, who, hasn't fought in a long time and a little bit older. And Garcia just blew his load real fast, man. 3 minutes. He actually looked real good for the first 3 minutes. He's kicking the crap out of Chris Grutzemacher. And then Grutzemacher's got an unbelievably deep gas tank, good perseverance, and good enough durability that once he took that beating, he gave it back tenfold. Kicked the crap out of Rafa Garcia. All of a sudden, Garcia's got bad cardio. All of a sudden, he's got bad pace. But I think a lot of that was just wrong place, wrong time. He thought he was going to go walk right through Grutzemacher. And when he didn't, he threw way too much. He sat down on too many punches. He threw way too much. Adrenaline dump, confidence dump. This guy's just taking your best shots. And let's be real here, Paul. You watch a lot of MMA. You've been watching a lot of MMA for a decade. How many guys fight like Chris Grutzemacher? Like this, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't go away. He just kept throwing. That's something I really don't think Natan Levy is going to do. So even if Garcia starts to fatigue the way he did in that spot, I just don't think Levy's going to put that beating on him. When you look at Natan Levy, LFA, he's been fighting largely for the LFA promotion. I believe his entire pro career has been for them outside of that fight on the Contender Series where he beat Shaheen Satana. That's since then, he's pulled out of 2 fights, I guess. So he hasn't fought in a year. The problem I'm having is that, and you look at his LFA career, right? Debut, 145 pounds. Cameron Underhill, 145 pounds. Henry Barona, 145 pounds. Nick Battis, 145 pounds. Ben Lugo, 145 pounds. And then for whatever reason on the Contender Series, it's a catch weight of 160. I think he's a featherweight. I don't necessarily think this guy's a lightweight. This fight is at 155 pounds. And that's where I kind of lean towards Rafa Garcia, is that if the fight stays standing, Garcia should have some advantages in that it doesn't appear that Levy fights particularly well off his back foot. He doesn't like pressure fighters. And I think that's what Rafa Garcia does at his best, is he is going to move forward. He will absorb a shot to give one back. Hopefully he paces himself a little bit better than he did against Grutzemacher. Hopefully he shows up with a little more gas in the tank than he did against Grutzemacher. But he should be naturally the bigger guy. He's definitely way more experienced. I mean, he's already fought Four UFC veterans in his career, 2 guys that were on the Contender Series, multiple Bellator veterans versus a guy in Natan Levy who, let's be real, hasn't fought anybody. So we're going experience Rafa Garcia. We're going natural size Rafa Garcia. We're going striking advantage Rafa Garcia. If this thing does hit the ground, I almost feel like I want to give an advantage to Garcia. It's just what a letdown that last fight was. My God. And so taking that all with a grain of salt, minus 125 ain't really that bad of a price tag. If you're betting Natan Levy, you're betting, well, he's been off for a year. Hopefully he's made a bunch of improvements. But from what we've seen, he's limited. He's not really that much of a standout, I don't believe. So I got to go with Garcia, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous on the basis of his last results.
Yeah, that seems fair enough. The action, I think, Garcia opened up at like a plus 110, and action has been going towards Natan Levy, so... Or sorry, action has been going towards Garcia, so we are heading in that direction. Money is piling in on Garcia, probably reluctantly. Losing to Grutzmacher, he lost a lot of. He looked good against Hackfrost, and that's why we got excited against Grutzmacher. But jeez, that was a horrible, horrible performance by him that night. All right, next up we got somebody else who people probably have lost confidence in. Godinez takes on Loma Lookboonmee. Minus 160 for Godinez, plus 140 for Lookboonmee. I mean, I said on the show last time that size matters when it comes to wrestling, and Godinez, I just thought that the style, for the amount of a favorite that she was, I feared what ended up happening is that against Luana Carolina, that she was just going to struggle to, control the much larger frame. Carolina's probably close to 140 in the cage on fight night, whereas Godinez is like 123 at the weigh-ins and doesn't, maybe she ate a little bit of a heftier breakfast or something. Maybe she's 125 on fight day, but it was a tough spot for her. She took it on short notice. Now she's taking on, we kind of seemingly we have a grappler versus striker. Lookboonmee's going to look to keep this on the feet. If they get into the clinch, Godinez could be in a little bit of trouble there. She's got to shoot for the takedown. She's got to get them early and often, because at range she's going to get chewed up here, I feel. But I think Godinez gets back on track here, secures takedowns, goes to plan A, and plan A will work for her in this spot. What's your take here?
Yeah, you know what? I knowing my luck, if I switch to Godinez here, she's gonna lose. If I don't take Godinez, she's gonna come out and get the victory. But I think I'm gonna go with Loma Lookboonmee for another underdog shot. Lupita Godinez seriously disappoint. Seriously disappoint. The Jessica Panay fight, that's bum shit, man. Like, what the hell is going on here? But I'm Panay savvy veteran, and she lost the fight on the basis of 2 bad positions, right? 2 rounds, she gave up her back. She got body triangle. She showed no sense of urgency. And to be honest with you, her wrestling didn't really look good in that fight. Now this fight with Sylvan Gomez Juarez. Well, she looked awesome, right? But Juarez literally took the fight on like 12 hours notice for Sam Hughes, right? So it was a girl that was on short notice. She was actually supposed to fight on Contender Series that week, the next week, then that following Tuesday. So it wasn't like she literally come off the couch to fight, but she wasn't a UFC fighter, and Godinez walked right through her. Fair enough. Now you got Luana Carolina. If we thought Godinez was a wrestler, well, she showed in the Jessica Panay fight. Well, she's not a very good wrestler, right? And even if she was a decent wrestler, the grappling's certainly not there. But this Luana Carolina fight was embarrassing, very embarrassing. Not because she couldn't get, you're 100% right. Luana Carolina is very tall, and the moving up a weight class certainly didn't help. It was the fact that she had an inability to switch up her takedown attempts. She kept trying the exact same thing, body lock takedown. Well, you're not going to get a body lock takedown on this girl because you're not going to elevate her feet off the ground. Switch it up. Go for an ankle pick. Go for a single leg. Peel her. No, you have to fight for the feet. You have to fight for the knees. You don't fight for the waist against an opponent that's 5-6 inches taller than you. She's not a very good wrestler. She can get away with wrestling other not good wrestlers, but no. So then let's go back to the boxing, because I actually thought she wasn't a grappler. I thought she was a boxer, right? Lupita Godinez, Mexican boxer, good hands. She doesn't really want to strike. She doesn't really want to get hit. She not swells up, but she turns red in the face pretty quick. She turns away, and then she tries to close the distance. Closing the distance in wrestling, Loma Lookboonmee, yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, Loma used to fight at 105 pounds. She's not exactly very big, and she's a Muay Thai fighter and a fighter from Thailand in general. The wrestling just hasn't quite caught up, and she's there to get exposed, right? But as far as the striking advantage goes, it goes towards Loma. She's a better striker. As far as in the clinch goes, Luma's better in the clinch in terms of she's going to throw knees, she's going to throw elbows, she's going to grind her up. Now, as far as the wrestling goes, yeah, it goes towards Godinez. But one, Godinez, not that good of a wrestler to begin with. Two, Loma Lookboonmee got discovered by the Hickman brothers, George and Frank, when she was at Tiger Muay Thai. And they were like, you know what? This girl would be better for MMA because she's strong and she can grapple a little bit. And they spend a lot of time working on her wrestling very specifically. So you look at her early career fights, she can't wrestle all that good. You look at her last couple, you definitely notice a positive trend that she's taking opponents down now. She's looking more comfortable in the grappling. She's getting up if she does end up on her back. She's scrambling, and they're big on her. Now, they're no longer with Tiger Muay Thai, so they've taken Loma Lookboonmee to Las Vegas with them, and she's getting just privatized training every single day. So she's supposed to fight Cheyenne Buys in this spot. Cheyenne Buys is a wrestler, right? What do you think Buys is going to try to do in that spot, right? Well, I shouldn't say Buys is a wrestler. Her husband was a wrestler. She likes to bang it out on the feet a little bit more. But all the same, the game plan would have been, sprawl and brawl this girl as well. Godinez is taking this fight on short notice, and she's going to have burnout. She beats Silvana Gomez, right? And then returns 7 days later. She looked burnt out, Paul. She looked tired in the third round. Hell, she looked tired in the second round. Mentally, physically, moved up a weight class, not going her way. Now you got to get on a flight. Now you got to fly home. Now the call comes, you're going to take another short notice fight 4 weeks later. Like, as an athlete, you have burnout. You're not just in the gym training all the time, right? You need a bit of a release. She hasn't had that release. I didn't think she looked good in that Luana Carolina fight at all. And if she shows up looking like that, yeah, at least now she's in her comfortable weight class. But this smells like a dog or pass situation to me. And so I'm going to go with that underdog, Loma Lookboonmee.
When Cody suggests underdogs, I just bet him. I don't even ask questions anymore. I've learned.
Well, hopefully we're on the right side this time around.
I mean, Chris Curtis was pretty bang on, and I mean, Chris Curtis, you had more confidence, at least in terms of how you delivered it. But I guess I'm betting Loma Lookboonmee now.
Keeping in consideration, last week it was Andrea Lee, Cynthia Calvillo. Same shit. Well, Calvillo should take her down, but she's not a really good wrestler, to be honest. And if she doesn't take her down, what's this fight going to look like? So that's what I'm banking on here, baby. I really don't think Godinez is as good of a wrestler as we all believe her to be. She's going to have some burnout effect here, and Loma's prime for the taking.
Hey football fans, who's ready to score some free bets? Now you can when you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers who bet just $1 on either team to score can win $100 in free bets. When a team scores, you score. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP, that's for Dogger Pass Podcast. Bet $1 on either team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, we got Terrance McKinney taking on Fares Ziam. Straight pick 'em. I mean, this is where I feel like books have really adapted over the last few years. You know, when McKinney came in, I was all over the unders all the way down the board. Fight doesn't go to decision, and the prices were considerably better. When I look up like the archive right now, I feel like they were much better than that at this point in time. But immediately this time around, they open at -185. It's down to, DraftKings Sportsbook's got fight doesn't go to decision at -280. It's like the books are getting a lot better at figuring these, like, you have like one fight, and like, in fairness, he went out there 7 seconds in, lands a 1-2, and Matt Frivola is iced, like, just done. Then jumps up on the cage, hurts his foot in the process, and then he had to kind of be carried out of the cage, which is kind of hilarious. As I told people, the under was so money, both guys had to die. But yeah, it's like the books are just so much better these days at like figuring out whether, figuring out these totals and stuff. It's like back in the day, you'd have like 2 or 3 fights where it'd take them a while to figure out, whether guys were over or under bettors. But they're on it. It's a much more efficient market in the year 2021. Interesting fight for sure. McKinney's obviously a potent finisher. I think his last 7 wins all in the first round. Ziam, probably a more technical striker. I like the guy McKinney. I follow him on Twitter. I'm probably a little bit biased. I like his story. I like where he's come from. He seems to have a lot of... These are all things that are not, fact-based or anything like that. I'm going to have a hard time betting against Terrance McKinney in this spot. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say, and I'll act accordingly.
Like Terrance McKinney, this is going to be just a little bit of a sweat simply because Terrance McKinney is a first-round guy. He has finished like 90% of his fights in the very first round. His current 4-fight winning streak is 16 seconds, 17 seconds, 1:12, 7 seconds. The one time he's gone extended that we saw, the Sean Woodson fight in the Contender Series, he looked awesome first round against Sean Woodson. Second round, he slowed down big time, and he walked straight into... It wasn't really a flying knee. Sean Woodson's so tall, he basically just went on his tippy toes. Like, it was just like he just kind of put his knee upwards, but he got diced by that, and he got caught by a triangle choke by Derek Minner, again, 57 seconds. But it's the fact that exactly what he wants to do. That's go out there and get a finish as quick as possible. His 4-fight win streak all came this year. So he's in some run right now. Him and Chris Curtis, actually. They're both 5-0 in 2021 with all the wins by knockout. So it's like he's going to tie the record right now. But I think part of it doesn't matter with Chris Curtis. He'll finish you in the first round. He'll finish you in the third round, right? McKinney seems to want to finish you as quick as possible. And with guys that fight that kind of style, he's super athletic, he's super explosive, and he knows he can finish guys in the first round. If he overextends himself and he kind of pushes it a little bit too much, he's going to be in trouble. Because for us, Ziam's not exactly like he's got durability issues. He's fought in Luigi Benjamini actually beat him up pretty good in the third round, but he took it. Jamie Malarkey, that's a credible win. He went the distance with Don Madge. He's never officially ever been knocked out in a fight. He's only 24 years old. He's still young. Good Muay Thai, good long. I mean, he's got a long ass jab, real tall for the weight class. If McKinney just blows up on him and kicks the crap out of him for the first round, but this kid survives, it could in theory get a little bit dicey, no doubt about it. But the reason why I'm just going to bite the bullet and go with Terrance McKinney is actually the wrestling. I know a lot of people probably aren't really considering that all that much, but he's got a real natural path to victory here with the wrestling. And that for us, being 6'1" at this weight class and being coming from a Muay Thai base, you saw Don Madge. Don Madge is actually a South African Muay Thai fighter as well. Took him down 3 times. His fight with Jamie Malarkey, which I thought was a fat robbery as far as I'm concerned, but he got taken down 5 times. And his last fight against Luigi Benjamini did fight a terrible game plan the first 2, but came alive, pressured him the third, wobbled him, took him down, and then had awesome success from top position. Terrance McKinney, meanwhile, he just blows up with these explosive techniques so quickly that people forget that he's actually a 2-time state champion out of Washington. He was actually ranked 6th in the nation his senior year in terms of recruits, and is just like a solid wrestler. The Woodson fight, why bother standing with Woodson? So he took him down, and Jesus, wrestling looked good. What didn't look good was his top game. And the subsequent fight with Derek Minner, well, shit, turns out Dunk got great top game. But Frazaham's got no submissions off his back. Take him down and coast on him. But this is going to come down to cardio. So I got McKinney. We're going to bet McKinney. I'm thinking fight don't go the distance. But if this thing gets out of the first round, I might be hedging it. I might go the other side. If Razaham survives the first round and he's plus 350 after the round or something, I'm going to have to just cut my losses right then and there. I don't know if I trust McKinney to beat him up for a prolonged period of time as much as I think he'll be the better guy. Yeah, because we haven't seen it. Could be It could be possible. He's only 27, you know.
Maybe his cardio
But
is
he's
great.
so
He just
athletic.
likes
It's hard to
killing
keep
guys
that
early.
going. Yeah, I know. Sometimes guys fall in love with that. It's like jiu-jitsu guys. They knock out somebody, and all of a sudden their next fight's like, why aren't they trying to take this fight to the ground? Because in their mind, it's like, well, dude, it was way easier that last time. I just hit the guy. Yeah, you got to fight to what's the easiest path to victory? That's all I care about. I don't care about you could beat this guy standing. You could catch Ziam with a flying knee. Yeah, maybe. Or he keeps you on the outside, jabs your face off. Sorry, I'll throw this last point on there for Ziam, though, is that he's got real low output, I think. Like, again, if you look at a number of his fights, he's not landing more than 50 significant strikes, and it's almost all the jab from the outside, jab from the outside, jab from the outside. Get in his face, pressure him, and take him down. That's the way to beat him. Malarkey should have won that fight. Should have. Judges didn't agree. Terrance McKinney follows a similar game plan. He can do it. The difference is Jamie Malarkey could fight for 3 days, okay? He's a junkyard dog. Terrance McKinney, I don't know, could fight for 3 minutes. I don't think I'd classify him as a junkyard dog. You know, he damaged himself more flipping off a cage than it did in his last fight. Like, you know, is he a liability? I don't know. I will bet him, but I will be sweating it, I think.
Yep, that all more or less makes sense. Yeah, we just don't know if he can go 15 clean, but we will potentially, or he'll kill him early. We may find out what he's really made of on Saturday night. All right, moving on down, we've got Cody Durden taking on Aoriqileng, minus 155 Durden, plus 135 Aoriqileng. I know it says Kileng Aori on the board, but I believe Mongolian, that's how they say it. Aoriqileng. It's a mouthful.
Well, on the broadcast for his last fight against Jeff Molina, they were calling him Richie Lang. He was Aoriqileng. That's what they're pronouncing it, and I'm sure they're probably closer than we are.
Oh yeah, they're definitely.
I don't know how you look at this and get Aoriqileng.
Aoriqileng.
I don't know.
I bet you we're
that's what they're
butchering it, just saying it that way too.
Who the
Either
hell
way,
knows, man? He's tough.
His lead up to the UFC, I labeled him as a shit-eating wild man. He went out there, Jeff Molina, and he showed that he is a shit-eating wild man. Just crazy. He will put himself in bad positions. Very, very high intensity, exciting fights from him. Cody Durden, on the other hand, he's went to decision some of his recent fights. Since he's got Jimmy Flick, obviously, flying triangle finish against him. Had a draw against Gutierrez, but yeah, go through like his earlier parts of his career, and it's all finish. I didn't bet a side here, but the under 2.5 rounds is sitting at plus 165. Fight doesn't go to decision is plus 150. I'm on both of those already. I feel like the unders didn't happen there in the Molina fight, but Lord have mercy, it could have. There was so much damage being inflicted from both parties that I feel like Aoriqileng, how'd you say it again? Aoriqileng is he's an under guy, and it's just a matter of time before we hit it. So I'm decently people who follow me on Twitter, 2 small bets. So I've got a small bet on the under 2.5 plus 165, and fight doesn't go to decision, just so I don't get, in the last few minutes of the fight, or the last 2 minutes and 50 seconds or 30 seconds, I don't get greased on something like that, and I just was all invested on the under. So that's where my money's at on this. What do you think?
Yeah. This one's got greasy written all over it for sure. I think I'm gonna go with the dog shot on Aoriqileng, but I expect it to be a pretty close and competitive fight. As far as the under goes, you're probably onto something on the basis of Cody Durden. He's an under fighter, 100%. I mean, he kind of goes, bang for broke. He'll either finish you early, or his cardio has seemingly been an issue the longer the fights goes. So he's either bang or bust, right? The problem is that Aoriqileng has got a lot of decisions. I think of his 18 wins, 11 of them are by decision. He's got 5 knockouts, maybe 3 submissions. So if he's going to win this fight, if he springs the upset, do I necessarily think he knocks out Durden? Maybe not. Do I think he submits Durden? Nah, I really don't. So I could see a world where Aoriqileng wins the fight. It's by decision. If Durden wins this fight, you would think it's going to be inside the distance, but they're giving you plus money on that under 2.5. So yeah, the way Durden fights, not a terrible example. Not a terrible idea, I should say. Looking at Durden, I'm just really not sold on this kid whatsoever. 30 years old. He wrestled a little bit in high school, had a terrible record, wrestled a little bit collegiately. But I don't think his wrestling is really all that good. When you look at his fight, we'll just talk about his 2 UFC fights, I guess. The Chris Gutierrez fight, okay? It's this, he goes for the same takedown the entire time. Works in the first round. Don't work beyond that. He goes for a single leg. He lifts the leg as high as he possibly can, and he kicks out the free leg, right? He might kick it 3 or 4 times before he gets it out. But that's his takedown. Works in the first round. He gets a back take. Everybody, even rewatching it yesterday, right? They give you the little tweets. Everybody has that as a 10-8 round. I did it. I didn't simply because you backpacked a guy. You had his back, but the ground and pound wasn't real heavy for me. The submission attempts weren't really there. It wasn't a near finish. It was just he dominated the round. But it wasn't he looks awesome, he dominated the round. Chris Gutierrez wasn't even trying to do anything. He wasn't even trying to get up. He wasn't trying to fight the hooks. He literally just was like, oh, well, I'll just wait for the second round. That led to the 10-8. But in the second and third round, you see Cody Durden struggle for the takedowns. By the way, exact same takedown attempt every time. Shoots the single, tries to live as high as he can, tries to kick the leg out. Gutierrez makes the slight adjustments, wins the second round, albeit gets taken down right at the end of it, and then wins the third round. And Durden took it on short notice, no problem. The next fight with Jimmy Flick, he looked better, but he took down Jimmy Flick with that exact takedown. He lifted his leg out. He kicked it out. Jimmy goes down. He follows Jimmy to the ground. Jimmy right away proves to be a much better grappler than. You see him shrimp his hips out, clear space, go to the cage, stand back up. Now Durden's relying on his striking, and he's definitely outstriking Jimmy Flick, who has absolutely no striking, but it almost just looks like matter of time. You know, he looks uncomfortable. He spam throws the same right hand, wants to close the distance. The ending sequence is Jimmy Flick smacks him in the head with a head kick, right? He catches the head kick, and what do you know? He goes to the same takedown he always does. He's got the head already, the leg up in the air, so he goes to kick at the free leg, and Jimmy just throws up the flying triangle, but he got booted in the head. I don't think he proved anything about his gas tank. I don't think his wrestling is really all that good. I don't think his striking is really all that good. When I think about how he matches up against Aoriqileng, the fight with Jeff Molina, right? He was coming from UFC Shanghai, the UFC Performance Institute Shanghai, which has notoriously not been having tremendously good results. The last episode of Contender Series, they looked better. They probably should have had 2 wins. They settled for 1 of them, but you do see that there is something there. When this guy showed up there, by all means, the coaching staff said the same thing you said. They're like, shit-eating wild man. This guy wants to get in the pocket and brawl. He's fought at 145. He's fought at 135. And now he fights at 125. He's huge for the weight class. He never takes a step backwards. We're going to give this guy a little bit of technique, and he's going to be nice. They like him, right? That fight with Jeff Molina, he won the first round. He backed Jeff Molina up. He outstruck him. He took him down. The second round, he's beating Jeff Molina. Boom. Flash knockdown number 1. That makes it an even round. But Aoriqileng still fighting a decent round, and then 10-second clapper, maybe 5 seconds left in the round, he gets sat down for the second time. That gives Molina the round, and then Molina wins the third round. But this dude never stopped coming forward, okay? UFC debut, cardio didn't seem like an issue, didn't suffer some big adrenaline dump, took some nasty shots, kept coming forward the whole time, scored 3 takedowns over Jeff Molina, and you see how good Molina is. He's no joke. So Aoriqileng guy, that was his first full camp in a performance institute where they were like, oh shit, this guy's okay. We can work with this and put on a good show as far as I'm concerned. So how does he match up with Durden? Well, Durden's the best wrestler he's taken on. So no doubt about it. That's going to be his path to victories. He grinds on Aoriqileng and takes him down. It could be a problem, but the Mongolian murderer is a pretty strong guy. He's got heavy hips. He's got a decent wrestling game of his own. He don't mind grinding up against the cage. He's the better striker. He's got better cardio, and he seems durable enough for my liking. So as far as a underdog selection goes, I'm going to take a shot on him.
All right, we got Sean Soriano taking on Shayalan Nurdonbieke. I butchered that one bad. It is what it is. All right, Sean Soriano is... What should I call this guy? There's no way that's too much of a mouthful for me.
Well, they call him Wolverine, so we'll just call him Wolverine.
Right, I love it. All right, we got Soriano, a minus 290 favorite. Wolverine can be had for plus 230. I see props out there, Cody. And I was all over the Giagos by sub last time out for Sean Soriano. Some guys just, there's just a clear path to victory. I don't care who he's working with. I'm sure he's getting better. But sometimes the path is just there. And I think it was like plus 600, plus 700. ended up cashing that. And actually, that was the same card as Ketchup beating, which I had parlayed. I parlayed Giagos by sub with Ketchup beating by knockout. And it was an obscene little return on those two. I forget the exact. It was like plus 550 and plus 700. Either way, it was silly. I mean, 12-1 for Sean Soriano to get submitted. I quickly looked through like the Wolverine's record, and he has submissions on his record. Are they against top tier opponents? No, but I would be very nervous about laying minus 290 on Sean Soriano. I know that the skills are there. Like, he is a great striker, but it's a big leak in his game, the submissions. It always has been, and I think at this point, it always will be. So, unless you're like, I'm the biggest Sean Soriano nut hugger of all times, I'm going to be looking for a Wolverine by sub prop this week. I won't be able to help myself.
Yeah, listen, man, I don't blame you necessarily. When I was a kid, whenever there was a situation just like you want to help out, but you couldn't help out, my dad would say, listen, son, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't get him to drink. And that was a good way of looking at things. I can bring him to the water supply, but it's up to him whether he wants to drink or not. In this case, you can take Sean Soriano to jiu-jitsu class. That doesn't mean you can make him grapple. And it has been a deficiency in his game right from the get-go, dude. He was a highly touted prospect the first time he signed to the UFC. He was 8-0. Since that first UFC run, okay, he's 6-7. It never got any better, Paul. It never did. And he's very much like Guto Innocente, right? They were both guys out of Black Zillions or Sanford MMA or Hard Knocks 365, whatever you want to call them, whatever the gym was, right? They were both, everyone in the gym was like, these guys are the best strikers. Lower weight class guy, Sean Soriano, higher weight class guy, Guto Innocente. And all the guys in that gym that end up being incredible strikers largely credited these two guys for helping them. They're just so advanced. The problem is that neither guy ever figured out the grappling aspect of the game. And yeah, it's been a problem. Kawajiri subs you, I give you a pass. Chaz Skelly, dude, he wrestled collegiately. Charles Rosa, well, he's a BJJ black belt. All right. Thomas Webb, it's getting a little bit harder. But okay, he's got some decent grappling chops. Levon Makashvili, Georgian stud, doesn't finish anybody. So that's a bit of a problem, but give you a pass. Bruce Boyington, oh my God, man. At this point, it ain't looking good. Here's where I will give him the pass, and I am going to pick him, but I don't like the odds. I am going to pick him. Is that he took that Christos Giagos fight on very short notice. He stepped on in like a week's notice, and it's up at 155 pounds, right? He naturally fights at 145. In the first round, Giagos is a hell of a big, thick dude at this weight class. Giagos does take him down in the first round, and I'll give Soriano one thing. He looks slick, man. Good get-up game. Got up immediately. And then he's a superior striker. So he's beating up Giagos standing. This is a good first round for him. Even at the end of the first, he gets taken down again, but you can see he's popping up to a hip immediately. The problem is the second round, because the second round, he took it on short notice. So now he's tired. And he's up a weight class. So now he's tired. And he's taking on a guy who's relentless, is going to come to grapple. And that was his downfall, is that he's on short notice against a much larger guy. This fight's back at 145 pounds. If you go on anything on social media, it's very, very difficult to find a picture of him that exists without wrestling shoes on. It seems like all he's doing is wrestling. It hasn't helped him in the past, but there is a noticeable improvement in the Giagos fight. It just didn't matter because it was a larger man and he was on short notice. When I look at Wolverine, he's not a very good wrestler. He's extremely raw. You can find highlights from these WLF fights, and quite literally, he's just muscling these guys down to the best of his ability. There's absolutely no technique. Now, he lost to Zhu Rong 1 year ago. Zhu Rong was 19 years old at the time and knocked him out in 2 minutes. Zhu Rong, 19-year-old fighter, knocked him out in 2 minutes. So the precedent there for Soriano to knock him out is certainly there. This is 1 year ago. It's not like it's, that's a long time ago. It's like Soriano's a good striker, a very good striker, good power, sits down on his punches pretty nice, wobbled Giagos a couple times. That low calf kick he was using on Giagos, nasty, was immobilizing him. So then against Wolverine, it's like, okay, well, you got to do just like Paul's saying. Everybody knows grapple Sean Soriano, but he tried to grapple Joshua Culibao and had no success. In the first round, I would have scored to him likely because he held him up against the cage for about 4 minutes, briefly completed one takedown, but Culibao got right back up. But they separate with 40 seconds left, and he got chewed up bad from the outside. He can't strike. Second and third round, he wasn't even trying to wrestle anymore. He was gassed. He just stood there and got beat up at range by Josh Culibao. So in Soriano, we got a much better striker than Kulabau. Been working on his wrestling. Cardio didn't look good against his last time out, but it was on short notice, up a weight class. He got to win this fight, man. And they're trying to do him a favor. They are 100% trying to do him a favor by giving him this opponent.
Are they?
So, well, I would just think if there is a winnable matchup on the roster, this is it. The fact that Sean Soriano is a 3-1 favorite over anybody in this division.
That is fair.
Could really go to tell you everything you need to know. And, you know, I mean, if this is the apple pie shitter, so be it. He's not going to be on the top ticket. He won't be on the top 2 tickets, but I'm going to have to use him fairly high up. And I do think that he's going to get the job done. Am I worried about the grappling? Sure, but this is his chance. This is his last chance, quite honestly. Time to do it. He's also only 32. He's not like he's over the hill. He just never figured out the grappling aspect of the game. So Gilbert Burns is like, you know, this is the time, and I'm going to buy into what Gilbert Burns is talking about.
All right. How high up the ticket is he going to be? Because that makes me nervous.
Yeah, well, just off my head looking at this card, right? Who you're more – I like Yanez more. I like who else do you like more? You know, who are your bigger favorites? If I was just a cowboy just going out on my own free will, I think I'd be inclined to put Yanez and maybe Sean Brady at the top. Actually, you know what? You 100% put Miesha Tate and Adrian Yanez at the top because that gives you your head-to-head opportunity. Your Yanez parlay with Tate is going to give you a plus 200 at the very least, and you can decide whatever the hell you want to do after that. That second line would consist of Sean Brady and Terrance McKinney. Your third line is going to have Tucker Lutz and I don't know. I'll tweet it out. I got to sit down and look at it. But you know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is it's not like no one's screaming me. I'm the safe pick here. It could be another greasy offering, but I'm confident we'll get the right combinations when it matters.
I mean, who am I to be asking you this early in the week for the greasy combinations? Shame on you, Shag. All right, moving on down, and the final fight on the card, or the first fight on the card, is Luana Pinheiro taking on Sam Page Hughes, minus 435 Pinheiro, plus 330 Hughes. I mean, going back and watching Marcos versus Pinheiro, you know, your mind kind of plays tricks with you that it was a lot more competitive than it was.
No, but it might have been starting to get more.
Pinheiro was doing great. She was crushing. She was crushing that fight. She looked every bit the prospect that we kind of thought she would be and expected her to be. You know, it's one thing, you know, was she acting? I don't know. I wasn't the one who got kicked in the head. I know a lot of people are like convinced that, you know, she was going to gas and that she was, you know, she was faking it to get the win in that situation. It's just like, she doesn't know that the ref is going to disqualify Ronda Marcos in that situation either. So it's like, I don't know what somebody who just got kicked illegally to the head looks like. And some people say it was like, you know, it didn't look like it was very hard. It's like, none of us got kicked in the head. So it's really tough to say. All I know is that she looked good on Contender Series. She looked good against Ronda Marcos, and Ronda Marcos is a solid gatekeeper in this division. She has been for years. And Sam Hughes really ain't all that much. Now, the only question here becomes, can Pinheiro fight like she did before the illegal kick? Can she fight like that for 3 rounds? Because if Sam Hughes is going to win this fight, you know, she's a bit of a junkyard dog. She's able to, you know, she got finished by Demopoulos in round 4. Maybe if she can extend it, she can get this into round 3. Things start opening up for her, but you know, the judo that Pinheiro has is seemingly it's upper echelon for sure. I don't know if I would say elite. She seems to have all the pieces. She's very marketable. I think she's good. And I'm not going to get overly dramatic about whether the kick was actually hurt her or whether she was acting. She said it hurt her. I can't disagree. I think that, you know, it happened. It was what it was. But I thought she looked great in that round up until the illegal up kick. So Is it a little bit wide for, women's MMA where they haven't been completely tested? Maybe, but I think we have one real prospect here and another somebody else who just usually just fills cards.
Yeah, I agree. Luana Pinheiro was the kick hard? Was it soft? Should have been a DQ? Was she faking? I don't know. The only thing I would say a lack of confidence is the kick didn't really look all that hard. So what are you going to do when you eat a hard strike? Like, she's had her way in all of these fights. She shows a professional record of 9-1. All 9 wins are inside of the very first round. The one time that she lost was the one time that I got outside of the first round. She lost a split decision against Chris Masfer. I can't actually even find the fight. Doesn't matter. Main thing is that she's proven to be a hell of a one-round fighter. Against Ronda Marcos, you're right. She tossed Ronda Marcos around. Ronda Marcos is one of the better wrestlers in the division. Now, I know some people are probably sitting at home laughing, but realistically, there's just not a whole lot of wrestlers in the division. She tossed her around, man. She took her down 4 times in the very first round. 100%, like you're saying, she was having her way. She was dominating. The thing is that Marcos wasn't going anywhere. She was getting tossed, and she was getting back up. And she was getting tossed again, then she was getting back up. And I think for Pinheiro, someone who's finished all of her opponents in the very first round, she might have started to be fatiguing. And that's the only worry here, is that she's very much like Terrance McKinney. This can be a bad bounce week or this can be a good bounce week. But we're going to be sitting there on Sunday thinking either Terrance McKinney and Luana Pinheiro, free money. How easy was that? Or you're sitting there on Sunday being like, man, things were going good until they tired out. That's just kind of the one worry that I would have here, is that if she is a one-round fighter, she needs to take Sam Hughes out in that first round. Luckily for us, Tecia Torres has never knocked out anybody ever. And she actually took Sam Hughes out in the very first round. So they say it was an eye injury, but Sam Hughes basically looked at her corner and shook her head and said, "No mas." And that was Tecia, right? Now her second fight for the organization, Loma Lookboonmee. Loma Lookboonmee is 5'1" and not really known for her wrestling. As I mentioned, she's been working on it. Loma Lookboonmee dominated her on the ground, Paul. Took her down at will, 4 for 8. But still, for a Thai fighter to get 50% takedowns, bad look. So this is just written right out for you. Last but certainly not least, Sam Hughes was supposed to fight against Godinez, and then she got COVID, right? So she'd been off for a month, kind of sitting around in limbo, and Luana Pinheiro was supposed to fight Jessica Panay on this card. Panay out, and they just threw Sam Hughes in there. So realistically, Sam Hughes is back coming off of COVID. Don't know what she's done in the last month, but I can't imagine that her body's particularly been, peaking for this opportunity. Whereas Luana Pinheiro, nothing really changes for her full camp, scheduled date. Let's get ready to rock. But yeah, and it just comes down to the grappling. She's a far better grappler than Sam Hughes is. And Sam Hughes has struggled. Even when she lost to Vanessa Demopoulos on LFA, she dominates the first 3 rounds with her striking. That fight hit the ground once. Done. Inverted triangle choke, right? Now, mind you, it was the 4th round. It was a title fight. Vanessa Demopoulos is a BJJ black belt. Luana gets on top of you. She's a threat. Definitely a threat. If Sam survives the first round and the wheels completely fall off, well, you know what? I guess we could see this happening, right? I'm just hoping it doesn't. She could look like $1 million, or she could fade after the first round. McKinney can look like $1 million, or he can fade after the first round. On this card, it's a greasy card. We're going to have to use them. We're going to have to use them, and we're going to have to use them maybe a little higher than we'd like to. But yeah, I got to go with Luana Pinheiro and just hope to the betting gods that she's got more than 5 minutes of cardio, or finishes this thing inside of those 5 minutes, and don't take me to those greasy deep waters.
Yeah, I mean, you can avoid this minus 435 pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's plus money across the board for her to win inside the distance. You don't even have to pick the submission or TKO or anything like that. That's probably the way to play Luana Pinheiro. If we're really concerned about, the one time that she did lose, she got extended. That was back in 2017. I'm sure she's put a lot of work into it. But Pinheiro inside the distance plus money is probably something I'm going to add to the card here. All right, so I tailed you while we're on the show with Lookboonmee. I'll consider Lutz, but I'm going to wait for weigh-ins on that one. Bet Miesha Tate on the program. I'm on the under 2.5 rounds, and fight doesn't go to decision in Durden versus our boy Chilang, Aoriqileng, or however you pronounce these names need I need phonetics next to them at this point in the game.
Right.
That's what I'm on right now. People are here for the PRP, so why don't you hit them with it?
Yeah, hit you with the PRP. We're gonna go with Miesha Tate, dog number 1, Sean Brady, Mr. Perfect, Kyung Ho Kang, Taila Santos. Got a bad feeling about that one. Adrian Yanez, Tucker Lutz is gonna be dog number 2, Rafa Garcia, Loma Lookboonmee, dog number 3, Terrance McKinney. That one's even money. Aoriqileng, that's dog number 4, Sean Soriano, and Alua Pinero. So again, we got 12 fights, 4 underdogs. Seems conceivable. Hopefully these are the 4 that we're getting. And I'm definitely going to look at this card 2-3 times more over, wait for weigh-ins, and I'm going to release a couple props, I think, as well, just to mitigate any potential damage, because fully recognize that it is a greasy card. But yeah, listen, it comes down to bounces. If we get the bounces this week, I think we're going to put the right order together. If Pinero's a one-round fraud, it's going to be trouble. Sean Soriano can't wrestle. Well, Paul, you told me so, because no, you're right. He absolutely can't wrestle. Durden versus Aoriqileng, that's going to be close, right? McKinney could be a one-round guy. Lookboonmee versus Godinez. Godinez, kind of her own worst enemy. Rafa Garcia, how could you trust that guy ever again? Sabatini versus Lutz. We're going with a dog shot here in a competitive fight. Yanez versus Grant. Too big of a line on Yanez. Grant, tough, right? But got to go with my boy there. Joanne Wood versus Taila Santos. Greasy. Rani, Yahya, Mr. Perfect. Greasy. Brady versus Chiesa. Could be greasy. Main event. Miesha Tate's the underdog. I'm still not understanding what I'm missing there. So anyways, all I'm saying is this. Greasy card. But do we ever skip cards, Paul? No. We do our homework. We pull our boots up. And we hopefully not drinking beer out of those dirty boots at the end of the night. So that's what we're doing. Hopefully we got those right combinations. 4 underdogs, 8 favorites. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's there's a week off next week, so no UFC action, and I believe there's 3 cards after that. So the 4th, the 12th, and the 18th, I believe. And then there's a full month off. So we got 4 cards to get, get your family all of their Christmas gifts, and everyone needs some extra money at the holidays, so why don't we go get it? Anyway.
Hey, last year, Pogi Raw bought his father a car off a PRP win on the very last card of the year, right? That's Christmas miracle shit. We're looking to make that happen again. But you're right, 4 more cards next week, no event. So I'll release another one of those mixed martial madness episodes. Try to release them on weeks that there's no UFC, which is almost never, but got another one of those in the bank. And if you are part of the DOP Racing stable, we got a little action on Thursday, baby. We got Callisto Dream racing out of the 8-hole, but it's a wide open race. I think we're going to be right in it. And yeah, I'm excited for that.
Callisto Dream fresh off of a 3rd place finish after an inquiry. Man, that inquiry.
Handsome Sebastian. Cheating
Sebastian. That was a real sweat. It was great. I didn't realize how exciting that would be. That the flippening of that was straight up awesome.
Yeah, that was good. Last week it was a 10 horses in it. 8 of them were boys, 2 of them were girls. We got a girl. This week it's a 5-5 split, right? We beat the one girl last week. We're gonna beat her. We beat 6 of the boys last week. We're gonna beat them. And going for that board hit. But as you saw from the race, right? 3 of them blew up behind the gate because they're trotters. And those are bad gated trotters. We got a good gated trotter. All we got to do is stay flat. They blow up. We move in. Boom.
Names don't have to be named, but is our mortal enemy, does he have a horse in this race?
He doesn't. Yeah. I looked. He
doesn't?
And no. Okay. I didn't think he did last week. The week before he had one in. The week before that he had one in. But it's all about classification. So this race here, for example, it's for horses that don't have 2 wins or $15,000 lifetime earned. Our horse has $19,000 lifetime earned, only $3,000 for us, but in her life, 19 earned, but she only has 1 win, right? Mm-hmm. And because she's a girl racing boys, she gets an allowance, another $5,000 or another win. So she can win that race 2 more times. There's a horse in this race. It's got $110,000 made and only 1 win. And we're going to beat it because it's not a very good horse. It just follows around. It doesn't win ever. It just follows around. It's a nice horse. It's made $110,000. It's only 3 years old, but it's not a winner, right? Our horse has only got 1 win, but it's only got 7 lifetime starts. So she'll crack that board, was what the hope is. Top 5, we get paid. Top 3, that's where the money is, and that's where we want to be, a board hit. And that win's coming, baby. We're knocking on the door, and we're going to get there.
We're gonna break that door down eventually.
That chat is going to be live because it's live when we hit the board. You know what I mean? That inquiry last week was great, but when we flat out win that bish, it's going to be a good time. So if you're not in on the horse, there'll be an opportunity next year. If you are in on the horse, giddy up, baby.
Yeah, because I have buddies who I told them I had it, and they were like, "Why didn't you ask me?" I'm like, "I don't know. You don't seem really interested in a whole bunch of this stuff that we do, so I didn't think that you would want to fractionally." And like now they've all been like texting me just like, how can I get into it? I'm like, it probably won't be until like October next year, but you know, membership fees are up. What is it, like October 1st or something like that?
And so my best friend in the world, I've known this guy since kindergarten, right? So I've known him for 26 years, and I was the best man at his wedding. He'll be the best man at my wedding. This guy's my guy. So he asked me like 3-4 months ago. He's like, dude, let's buy a horse, me and you, 50-50. And I'm just like, all right, I'll look into it. And I decide, you know what, let's get a little ownership group going together. You know, I've had so much good support and great people on Twitter. Like, let's get everyone involved and kind of make a thing out of this. So I call him up to buy 1%. And he's like, yeah, I got to talk to the wife. But I was like, you asked me to buy half of a horse. Right now he's thinking about 1%. Man, those people, you know, these are people that are your best friends. Online, I put the thing up and I was just like, yeah, you know, we're going to sell 50 shares. And I thought that might take a week or two. And it was like 3 or 4 days. I held a share for a couple guys because they'd let me know, you know, just hold on for a couple days. But they sold out quick. Like, I think the old saying is like, you get more support from strangers than you do from people you know. I wouldn't say that. I know you, I know Pat, I know Feinberg. You know, you guys all jumped on. That was pretty badass. But yeah, just like the outcry from random people who are just like, I want in, and we're having some fun with it. So that's the plan. We're going to make money, get a return on investment, and then roll it into next year. Get another horse. Eventually have a stable, right? So upwards and onwards, just like anything in life, Paul.
100%. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftik and producer Matt, I'm Paul, saying goodbye and good luck.
Ow, ow, ow.